Hello, America. Your political-free Friday night continues. Stay tuned for I Do This for Free with me, Alan Ray, on America's Podcast Network, KLRN Radio, right after these messages.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the new Sesame Ginger Glazed Chicken Signature Wrap. How would you like it?
I'll take a...
Sports announcer at home?
Yeah, how'd you...
We just know.
My wife picks up the new Signature Wrap. It's got double the rotisserie-style chicken mixed with a sesame ginger glaze. She appears annoyed at me, but she shrugs it off. Those sweet and savory flavors are calling her name. She lifts the wrap and she takes the bite! Incredible! And now she's closing the door on my... Subway, make it what you want.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. Double meat based on average 6-inch sub.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
I'm Alan Ray, and I do this for free.
It's the refreshingly non-political podcast about everything else.
Some of you have written in suggesting that I'm a whack job.
I'm just an ordinary average guy. My friends all are boring, and so am I. We're just ordinary average guys.
It's just the normal noises in you.
Ordinary average
Here's your host, Alan Ray, and he does this for free.
Yeah, that's right, sweetie. I do this completely for free. Nestled safely between In the Crease and Juxtaposition, it is I, your humble host, Alan Ray, not getting paid to do this podcast. It's absolutely free. And by the time you hear this, tonight, especially Friday, this is the lovely month of March. By the time this breaks on KLRN's live feed, KLRN Radio's live feed, I will be on stage doing my second favorite passion, and that is playing music and singing. I don't know how many people will be there. I don't really care. I do that, and I get paid rather handsomely, quite honestly. But I usually don't do shows on Fridays because I'm usually working Fridays. But here I am. It's a special occasion, and it's something that my hometown is doing, and so I said, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I also have a show Saturday night. I also have a lot to do Sunday. And somewhere in between all of this madness, we get to lose an hour of sleep. Yes! I love it when I get to lose yet another hour of sleep. Yep, spring forward this weekend. It's a special time of year where you get the privilege of losing an hour of sleep just because somebody somewhere in our wonderful capital of Washington, D.C. decided that we should screw around with the time. I have read several reasons. I think the original reason was for longer shopping hours. It didn't pan out. Somebody has said, oh, well, you get daylight, when kids go to school. No, you don't. Why don't you just leave the time alone? Oh, maddening, especially this time of year. And it takes weeks. And, there's people out there that whine all the time about it, but there's validity to it. There's actual validity. There's actual reasons why they should just leave the time alone. Dr. Maria Simbra from Pittsburgh, CBSLocal.com, has an article out that says, which do you like better, the way we set our clocks for winter or summer? As we spring forward to daylight saving time each year for 8 months, we have more sunshine for later day activities. Whoopee. But this clock adjustment is hard on the body in two ways. One is the time change. We were designed to wake up with sunlight and sleep with the sunset, said Allergy Health Network sleep specialist Dr. Khalid Malik. The human body is designed for gradual lengthening and shortening of days with the seasons, not a disruptive 1 hour shift. Autopsy studies point to more events hazardous to your health occurring around the time of the switch, both spring and fall. Especially in the spring, it's more of a problem because it leads to sleep deprivation, Dr. Malik says. It can lead to increase in accidents the next day, increased cardiac events, and increased strokes. So stop messing with my health. Stop messing with my sleep. I'm old. I don't like change. Anyways, it's inevitable. It's going to happen whether I like it or not. Set your clocks ahead Saturday night. So Sunday, you're not an hour late for church. But here we go. And speaking of sleep, I while I was researching this and doing a little, whining and just mental thinking to myself, I don't really want to do this. There's a new sleep method. It strengthens the brain's ability to retain memories, which I need. Lord knows I need. It's a new joint study by Tel Aviv University, and I found this on eurekalog.org. Tel Aviv University and Weizmann Institute of Science researchers has yielded an innovative method for bolstering memory processes in brain during sleep. Now, to me, it's interesting. The more they unlock the secrets of the brain, the more they unlock the way the brain works, the more interested I become. I started this infatuation many, many, many years ago, and it led to the degree that I actually have. I went back to school because even though it is a business degree, even though I did learn how to do a whole lot of things in business, it was really heavy on psychology. And I went, oh, hey, that's right up my alley. And I have continued to be a researcher of psychology, and this is one of the things that piques my interest. This method relies, that they're talking about, on a memory-evoking scent administered to one nostril. Not both, just one. And it helps researchers understand how sleep aids memory and in the future could possibly help to restore memory capabilities following brain injuries or help treat people with post-traumatic stress disorders, for whom memory often serves as a trigger. So basically what they do is they inject a scent, a light scent, into one of your nostrils and study your brain, how it reacts to it. Now, according to the new study, it was led by Ella Barr, a PhD student at TAU, Tel Aviv University, and the Weizmann Institute of Science. Other principal investigators include Professor Yuval Nir of TAU's Sackler Faculty of Medicine and a couple others that are out there. And Barr explains, we know that memory consolidation process takes place in the brain during sleep. In other words, a way I've studied it, the way I've described it, the way I've had it described to me by professors is when you go to sleep, your brain kind of downloads. For long-term memory storage, information gradually kind of transitions from your hippocampus, which is the brain region that basically serves as a temporary buffer for new memories. And it takes that and it downloads it to the neocortex. But how this transition happens, it remains an unsolved mystery. They really don't know. But by triggering the consolidation process in only one side of the brain during sleep, they were able to compare the activity between the hemispheres and isolate the specific activity that corresponds to memory reactivation. Professor Neer, one of the scientists that helped this out, she adds, "Now, Barr says beyond promoting basic scientific understanding, we hope that in the future, this method may also have clinical applications. For instance, a post-traumatic patient shows higher activity in the right hemisphere when recalling a trauma, possibly related to its emotional content. The technique we developed could potentially influence this aspect of the memory during sleep and decrease the emotional stress that accompanies recall of the traumatic memory. Additionally, this method could be further development to assist in rehabilitation therapy after one-sided brain damage due to a stroke." This is incredible. And you're only going to hear it here on I Do This for Free with me, Alan Ray. It's basically a one-sided odor delivery system while you sleep. And scent, if you don't know this, if you do, you probably do, it's common sense. Scent, the sense of smell, is one of the biggest triggers you can have. I am a thorough believer of this. The science is out there that backs the research behind this. Roses, you smell roses. You smell food cooking. I walk in and smell coffee. And I think one of the reasons that I'm crazily addicted to coffee, I don't drink as much of it as I used to, but I still am quite addicted to it, is that as a very, very small child, this is back in the days where they didn't have Mr. Coffee. You had percolators. And we would always pack into the car early morning to head to Wisconsin to see my grandparents. And about the time we would hit the toll roads, the Ohio toll road going to Wisconsin, my father would turn to my mother and say, "How about breaking me out some of that coffee?" She would have percolated coffee. It would be in a nice thermos, one of those old glass thermoses that if you bumped it too hard, it was done, it was over, it would shatter. But anyways, she would pop open the lid on that thermos. And to this day, when I smell that, it takes me right back to, I'm talking young childhood. I'm talking 4, 5, very young. That smell takes me right back to those big old Oldsmobiles that my dad used to buy. He was an Oldsmobile fan. He loved his Oldsmobiles. And smelling that coffee, taking those trips to Wisconsin, the excitement, being packed into the back of this car with my 2 sisters and my brother, who were much bigger than me. I am the youngest of the family. And it's a stimulating, those things. And the smell of biscuits and gravy, the smell of certain things outdoors, the smell that you get when thunderstorms roll through right afterwards. Just so many memories. And this helps unlock a lot of that stuff. It's so interesting. I'm sorry to ramble on, but brain research, the things that make people tick, the things that make you remember or forget or whatever, to me, that's very interesting, and I hope it's just as interesting to you, too. When we come back, of course, we're going to talk science. Of course, we're going to talk all kinds of space stuff. And, well, 'tis the season for inclement weather. Don't go anywhere. Yeah. It's a Cars kind of day, you know? I got a box set of nothing but Cars music. I might just have to break that out and listen to it the rest of the day. I've taken the day off because I have this show tonight. And so it's prime to just, after I get done with this show, just to kick up my stereo and just let it blast through the house. I'm home with nothing but the dog and the cat, and they don't seem to mind. I'm Alan Ray. This is the refreshingly non-political podcast about everything else, and I do this for free, not a dime paid. NASA is taking applications for moon explorers. You interested in going to the moon, being one of the people that actually projects us into space again, colonizes the moon? If you listen to I Do This for Free regularly, first of all, what's wrong with you? Don't you have anything better to do with your life? Second of all, you know that we talk about space a lot because I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by what goes on up there, what's up there, why we quit going there, and when are we going to get our heads out of our hind ends and take back off again? And we're going to do it. The space program is back on. Game on. Here we go. And NASA, not the parts store, we're talking the space program, is actually taking resumes and taking applications for space explorers, people who want to live on the moon, who want to travel to the moon and beyond. If you're young and you're in college and basically what you have to do is you have to, number one, they call it a STEM degree, which is science, technology, engineering, and I don't know what the M is for, probably mayhem or whatever. Magic. We really don't know why things fly. We have an idea, but we're not really sure. Anyways, NASA's taking applications. So if you're one of these brainiacs who really isn't afraid to jump into a jet-propelled rocket, strap yourself in, and have limited oxygen, limited food, limited supplies, and blast yourself off to the moon, that may be the career for you. I'm sure it pays well. There are some hazards, but hey, what job doesn't have hazards? Even my job has hazards. So what do you do? Speaking of space, and we won't dally too long on space today because I have other things to do. The astronaut, Christina Cook, People magazine caught up with her. And from this morning, I happened to catch this. I did not know that she is from Michigan. Finally, somebody did something good in Michigan. Finally, we can talk about something besides really bad sports programs and horrible drinking water when it comes to Michigan. We could talk about this young lady who, she's not really all that young. She's not that old in my world, but she is like 41 years old. If you don't know who Christina Cook is, she just broke the record for somebody living in space. She's the only woman who doesn't have to imagine about what it's like to live in space for almost an entire year. Imagine witnessing 16 sunrises and sunsets every day for 11 months, or floating in a sleeping bag while completing 5,248 orbits around the Earth and traveling 139 million miles. Well, Christina Cook doesn't have to imagine these things. She just came back to Earth on February 6th after spending 328 days aboard the International Space Station, surpassing the previous record held by Peggy Whitson for the longest single space flight by a woman. Now, apparently there's guys that have done a little bit longer, but she's quoted as saying, "I feel incredibly privileged to have been part of this." And she told People magazine that thinking back to a year in your life and being able to contribute as much as I have had the opportunity to has just been awesome. Now, the contributions were and continue to be endless. There was the fun study of plant biology and how we can grow plants in space, which included tasting fresh Mizuna mustard. And then, like she said, while feeling like I was standing on my head all the time, she participated in the kidney cells investigation and another that will try to prevent a lack of gravity from causing bone and muscle loss to astronauts in space. Now, that's a big deal. We're planning on going to Mars. We're planning on doing this whole thing. And basically, one of the problems we face, besides extreme radiation, is we face the problem of bone density. We face the problem of muscle loss while we're in space. Now, they knew about this. They predicted this, even from the first space program. If you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, go back and listen to that. One of the things they have aboard this long-term spaceship is the center of it rotated. It rotated rather quickly to provide something that resembled gravity by, the middle of the spaceship, centrifugal force keeping you pressed out. And so as we continue this space program, we're going to have to solve the issues of bone density, gravity causing bone and muscle loss, and come up with something like they did in 2001: Space Odyssey, some form of artificial gravity. I would rather them do that than try to do it with medicines. Frankly, anytime you inject anything into your system, any kind of thing that doesn't belong in your system, there are risks involved. So I'd rather see them inject or try to figure out how they can do artificial gravity, how they can do some kind of centrifugal force, whatever. And it's going to take a study, a very huge study of what gravity actually is and how you can recreate it. We don't have that yet. We don't have that. You can tell we don't have that yet because we don't have flying cars. You see where I'm going with this logic? Anyways, she is from Michigan. She's a Michigan native. Christina Cook contributed to hundreds of studies, and she said leaving space was bittersweet, especially knowing that there's views and things that she'll never see again. Well, maybe she will. You just don't know. But being home is still wonderful and spectacular. She said, I'm overwhelmed with joy to be home and to be experiencing all the sights, the smells, the feeling of wind, the feeling of weather, all these things that we grow up with, and we don't even realize how much they comfort us, she says. The blue sky, even. I didn't see the entire time I was on board. There are things that I'll miss. There are things that I may never see again. But to be back home in the environment that I grew up in is truly amazing. You don't even think about that kind of thing when it comes to space travel, do you? The things we take for granted. Like right now, I'm looking outside my window in the cornfields of southeastern Michigan in Gadsden Studios, where I give you this show, where it comes from. And the wind is blowing. The clouds are rolling in. Looks like we're going to get rain. And it's just storms are brewing. Guess what? It's March. This is March in Michigan. And we're going to talk about a lot more of that on the second half of this show. Trust me. But space travel, what kind of not only physical effects will being in space long-term wield, what's it going to do to a human body? The other question is, what kind of psychological effects are you going to experience? Depression. We really don't know. There's not a whole lot of senses that you can experience when you're crammed into a tiny little box hurling across space. Like she said, the blue skies, the feeling of wind, the constant bombardment of different smells. From what I understand, that International Space Station and, space shuttles and everything, they get to be quite stenchy after a little while. You think about it. When it's up there traveling, hurling through space, there's not a whole lot of ways to get fresh air into that, to air it out. You can't just open a window. Well, you can, but a lot of really, really bad things are going to happen. And from what I understand, it really reeks. It takes a while to get used to that smell when you're on that station. And it's one of the problems they've been working on. And it's one of the problems they'll have to work on when it comes to colonizing the moon, when it comes to going to Mars. And, Mars, that whole thing there, the future, the planning on going to Mars, that's taking on a whole life of its own as well. And not just from governments, from private enterprises. And one of the things that they're going to have to figure out, besides getting there, is what are the psychological and physical ramifications of being on a different planet with different gravities, without, the constant not having atmosphere, the constant feeling of not really being able to experience what we take for granted right here on good old Mother Earth. And, who knows? Maybe what we were just talking about with the new sleep method where they're injecting a scent into your brain, maybe that's a key to unlock it. You see how I do all this stuff? It all just kind of locks together, kind of eventually, sort of in some weird tripped out way in my own brain. But maybe that's another key to prevent depression, prevent some of the things that we do in space, is that kind of a sleep therapy where they inject scents from home sweet home, good old Mother Earth, into a brain to make it feel like you've been, and not only that, it'll get the stink out of the space station. It makes it feel like you're back on good old Mother Earth. We belong here, kind of, sort of. That's a whole thing for another day. Probably a thing for juxtaposition is how humans are so unadaptable to this planet. But anyways, in one way, but in another way we are. We adapt things around us. Unlike the rest of the animals who adapt to their environment, we adapt the environment to suit us by building houses, by building cars, by creating air conditioning and heating. We're going to have to think that way when we go into space, especially for long term. Now, if you're one of these people who watch The Expanse, now I've watched one episode. I've watched the very first episode just to see what it's like because I'm reading the book series. I'm a nerd. I admit it. Not even going to try to pretend I'm not. But I read the book series, and when I'm done with probably 3 or 4 of the books, I will eventually go on to, seeing the entire episodes. It's on, I don't know, Amazon Prime, which I have for now. We'll figure it all out. But I like to watch it, and my plan is to watch it during the summer when I'm hanging out on my back patio. That's the plan. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I'll download them and I'll watch it. But some of the things that the book at least focuses on is how the people they call the belters, which are the people who were born and raised in the belt in space, how they are elongated, how their body features are taller and longer and slimmer than people who were born on Earth and forced to adapt to living in space. And there's a big, whoever, the guy that wrote the Expanse series really knew his stuff when it comes to, social and just all of the psychological and aspects of what we would have to face if we did colonize space. He's really good at that stuff. He's really thought-provoking. And some of the things he talks about is, people from Earth being kind of looking down their nose at people who lived in the belt, who were born and raised in space. And the belters, some of the things that they felt slighted, how they felt like kind of slaves. And the guy's really good. Yeah, I don't know if the actual movie series, the show focuses on some of this stuff. The books definitely do. And being the nerd I am, you definitely have to get the books and read them because there's always things in the book that they can't really portray on TV. They can't really portray on the videos. So there you go. We are already at the bottom of the hour. Can you believe this? This is the fastest hour. When I do these podcasts, time just absolutely speeds up and it freaks me out every time. When we come back, we are going to discuss some things. I guess I'm going to have to touch on the coronavirus. I don't really want to, and I have reasons I don't really want to, but just for your own safety, your own sake, I'm going to touch on that. And then we're going to get into what really, really matters this time of year. Don't go anywhere. Well, I guess you can go get yourself a refresher, drink a little bit, get some snacks. When you come back, we're going to get all crazy about the weather. Stay tuned. I'll be back.
This ain't no party. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around. No time for dancing.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Welcome back. This is a refreshingly non-political podcast about everything else. I am your humble host, Alan Ray. I don't want to talk about the coronavirus. I really don't want to talk about the coronavirus, but we're going to talk about the coronavirus, and I'm only going to say a few things about it. Number one, stop freaking out. Stop freaking out. Two things are I'm going to tell you right now. Hand sanitizer will only work limitedly. Face masks will only work if you plan on being face-to-face with somebody who has the coronavirus. Otherwise, do what you do all flu season. This is the flu. Well, let me just get something straight. Coronavirus is nothing new. We've had coronaviruses forever. There's forms of the common cold, which are coronaviruses. It is just, the reason they call it coronavirus is when you look at the virus under a microscope, it's got like this corona around it. Coronavirus ID 19, COVID 19, which is the one that everybody's freaking out about right now, is the flu. The mortality rate, especially in the United States of America, is very, very low. For some reason, it doesn't attack kids. We don't know why yet. There is no reason. I'm going to put it to you in a nutshell, okay? Now, this is kind of the semi-prepper coming out of me. You should be more concerned about media-fueled panic and what people will do and how stupid they will react to the media-fueled panic. You should be 10 times more concerned over that than you should getting the coronavirus, okay? Can I make that any more clear? I just want to put that out there up front. Stop panicking. Stop freaking out. We're not going to turn into a bunch of zombies. There's not going to be bazillions of people dead laying on the streets. Wash your hands. Don't touch your mouth or your nose or your eyes with your hands unless you thoroughly wash them first. Keep your hands away from your face. And another thing, and my supervisor at work brought this up. Why are you just now buying Clorox wipes and hand sanitizers and soap? What have you guys been doing? You gross. Ugh. Anyway, it is creating problems. The panic, the media-fueled panic is creating issues. It's creating shortages of masks that actual people who deal with the coronavirus medical, and the reason I say this is masks have a limited effect on the coronavirus. If you're wearing a mask and somebody coughs or sneezes in your face and they've got coronavirus, that's good. It's good you have a mask on. The odds of that happening are very slim. And you can control, unless you're forced to be packed in every day with hundreds of people face to face, you don't really need a mask. If you do catch the coronavirus, the COVID-19, maybe you should wear a mask so you don't spread it. Wash your hands 20 seconds at least with hot soapy water. Sing happy birthday to yourself twice. Sterilize objects around your house. This time of year, you should be doing this anyways. Now, because I am who I am, and I want you to walk away from this show knowing something you didn't know before, I'm going to tell you this flat out. The EPA has released a list of approved disinfectants to kill coronavirus. It also released the reason that why some hand sanitizers will not work. They don't have what it takes to kill the coronavirus. But if you go under, ABC News on their home site has us, abcnews.go.com on March 5th, 2020. And they actually have a list. It's a link right on this article you can press. And it goes right to the EPA website where it shows all of these things that will kill the coronavirus. Clorox wipes are one of them. Pretty much anything that's got bleach content that's strong enough will kill this coronavirus. But, and this is a big but, bigger than the lady that's in front of you at the salad bar right now. You have to use these products correctly. If you don't have Clorox wipes around your house or at work, why not? Why not? Have hand sanitizers around. Don't overuse them. Overusing hand sanitizers will dry out your hand, opening your hands up to infections, even worse infections than if you didn't use them. Your best bet is hot soapy water until this all blows over, until the freak out ends, and I'm rolling my eyes. If you must, stay away from people. Don't get within 6 to 10 feet of other people, unless you really need to. But you don't have to freak out over this virus. And even the people who are catching this virus, the death rate is no different from just getting the regular flu. In fact, it's a little lower now. It's on the downward side of it. So you can go on the EPA website. You can download the things that will, kill the coronavirus and other viruses and the flu, a lot of common flus. Wipe your house down. Stay clean. If you are paranoid about it, limit your contact with other people. All right? Stop freaking out. Really, seriously. Moving on. You are more likely this time of year to be taken out by inclement weather. or at least injured. The tornadoes that happened in Nashville. Now, for those of you that don't know, Nashville is like my second home. I love Nashville. I lived there for 2 years back in the 80s, went to college there. I still, to this day, have friends. One of my best friends still lives there. I love the city. I love the people. I love the area. I go back there when I get a chance. And so it really saddened me, it disheartened me to hear about the tornado that hit Nashville this week on March 3rd. And it passed through the Hermitage area, parts of Putnam County, and it was hit hard. And now they're saying that there's at least 24 fatalities and more than 200 injuries. And it really is sad because the destruction, the widespread destruction is just massive. And there's some places that I remember. There's some places that I remember going to that I frequented, and they're gone. They're just gone. And the tornado spread right across Tennessee as far as Cookeville. And it was all over the place. It really was. And that led me to believe, and led me my mind to start thinking about this time of year, especially in Michigan, especially in the Midwest, but all over the area, all over the United States. March is one of those transitional months. You're transitioning from winter to summer. And I'm looking out my window right now, and it's ugly. The wind is whipping. There's clouds coming in. It's just nasty. This time of year, anything could happen. Anything. Especially in Michigan. You know, we always say, if you don't like the weather, hang around. In 10 minutes, it's going to change. And I've seen that literally happen in Michigan. And being the person I am, trying to bring you the content that I want to bring you, I'm going to first of all go over some things that are kind of interesting. First of all, the 10 worst blizzards in U.S. history. Some of them happened in February and March. And I found this, what is this, Life Science? Kind of a cool article. But some of the great blizzards that have happened in history, like the Great Blizzard of 1888, more than 400 people died. The worst death toll in the United States history for a winter storm. And it was March 11th and March 12th in 1988 in Connecticut and Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. Huge snowdrifts buried houses and trains. 200 ships sank in the waves whipped up by the fierce winds. The Great Blizzard of 1899. Now you're getting a little thing here. The late 1800s were one of those time periods where a lot of stuff happened. From Georgia to Maine, a punishing storm shut down the eastern seaboard beginning February 11th, 1899. It was horrible. The snow showers started in Florida and moved. Okay, now get this. The snow showers started in Florida and moved north, dropping 20 inches in Washington, D.C. in a single day and a record 34 inches in New Jersey. And what is it? Can a storm be a blizzard and a cyclone? Yes, and it's nasty. The storm of the century wreaked havoc from Cuba to Canada. As strong as a hurricane covering an entire continent, the storm was responsible for 310 deaths, $6.6 billion in damage, and shut down the South for 3 days. That happened on March 12th, 1993. I remember that. Okay? Then what they had was the White Hurricane. This was a blizzard with hurricane-force winds. This devastating storm is the deadliest natural disaster to ever hit the Great Lakes region. More than 250 people died when the winter whopper called the November Gale struck the Great Lakes on November 7th, 1913. Now, this is just coming into winter. Waves on the lakes reached 35 feet high. Dang. Now, I frequent the Great Lakes. I don't live too far from Lake Erie. I don't really I live 3 hours away from Lake Michigan. And I go there, beautiful lakes. But man, when you have a day like today where the wind is just whipping, those lakes get angry. I'm not even kidding. It's crazy how angry they get. Then they have another one called the Children's Blizzard. Now, the Children's Blizzard was January 13th, 1888. There again, late 1800s, they went through a period. The Children's Blizzard earned its tragic name because of its timing. On January 12th, 1888, temperatures dropped from a relatively balmy few degrees above freezing to a wind chill of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. In the Dakota Territory and Nebraska, because of the warm day, thousands were caught unprepared for the cold weather, including school children sent home by the teachers during the storm. The death toll was 235, a lot of them children. Then they have the Great Appalachian Storm. Winter storm marked by heavy rains, winds, and blizzard conditions. The Great Appalachian Storm formed over North Carolina before looping around Ohio, devastating much of the southeast along the way. This was November 24th, 1950. 353 deaths. The Knickerbocker Storm was another one. This blizzard gained notoriety for its heavy, wet snows, which collapsed the roof at one of the most popular venues in Washington, D.C. Storm takes its name from the cave-in at the Knickerbocker Theater, which killed 98 people and injured 133 with 3 foot of snow. It fell in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. This hit January 27th and January 28th. Then they had the Armistice Day blizzard, which was November 11th, 1940. As the cold northern air collided with warm Gulf Coast moisture, the raging blizzard quickly chilled the air and the fierce winds built 20-foot snowdrifts, a total of 145 deaths. Then they had the Super Bowl blizzard, the record low pressure system, 961 millibars, sparked tornadoes in the southeast before heading into the upper Midwest, where heavy snows and cold killed more than 100,000 farm animals. Unlike many winter storms which sweep in from Canada, the Super Bowl blizzard started in the Pacific and crossed the Rocky Mountains as it headed over the plains on January 9th, 1975. The first of 45 tornadoes spun up. The 2-day outbreak killed 12 people and injured 377. In the Midwest, the front mixed with Arctic air from the north and warm Gulf Mexico moisture, the classic ingredients for a winter blizzard. Heavy snows and winds killed 58 people. And then finally, not too long ago, and we all remember this, Snowmageddon. Snowmageddon, 2 blizzards in February of 2010 broke snowfall records in the mid-Atlantic region, such as a whopping 32.4 inches of snowfall at Washington's Dulles International Airport. After the second snowstorm, in February, 68.1% of the country was blanketed by snow. Let me repeat that. 68.1% of the entire country was blanketed by snow. The term Snowmageddon, around since 2009, stuck when President Barack Obama used it at the Democratic National Committee's winter meeting during the storm. That was one of the first times in my adult life that I happened to mention that I probably should not have tried to go to work that day. You know, and I have driven through some pretty horrific weather. And I remember at that storm getting 2/3 of the way to work and thinking to myself, man, I probably should have just stayed home. I don't have a main road to work. I take back roads from my house 30 miles all the way to where I go to work. I could possibly go 6 miles out of my way and hit a freeway, but I don't like to because there's a lot of people on there, and especially in snow, they don't know what they're doing. So I don't. So there you go. That was the top 10 blizzards to date. Noticeably left out and of notable mention is the blizzard of 1978, which hit right here in the tri-state area, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, in Wisconsin, some places like that, and dumped just tons of snow, 42 inches just here alone. I don't know why they didn't include that in there. Maybe they're just looking at a bigger national scale. A lot of people died. It also moved on to New York and did that. I don't know why they didn't include that in there. I was very young, 1978. That would have made me just before 13 years old. I was just preteen. I was 12, going to be 13 in a few months. And that was the craziest blizzard. I remember the electricity in the air, just this feeling. We went to school. We got to school. We were in first hour, and the principal comes on, and he says, students, I want you to get all of your stuff, and I want you to go back to your buses and board your buses immediately. We are taking you home. There is a blizzard coming this way that seems to be very bad. There wasn't even, in fact, it was cloudy, but there wasn't even a snowdrop when we got out. In fact, there was no snow on the ground. By the time that bus dropped me off, there was an inch of snow, and it snowed. You couldn't even see out the windows hardly. There was snow just coming down like I have never seen all night and all day the next day. When it finally cleared out, my dad had to climb out the kitchen window to shovel us out to open up the back door. It was horrible. That was a crazy. And then the temperature dropped. The winds picked up. The temperatures dropped well into the negatives. And it froze the upper layers of that snow where you could literally climb up the snowdrift that was out our back door that was like 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall. And you could walk right across the snow and not even just dive into it. I mean, you could walk right across. My wife talks about skating across the top of it. Crazy times. So those are the worst blizzards. A lot of those, if you noticed, happened in March. And to go along with them, we are coming up on, like what happened in Nashville, the possibilities of tornadoes. And one of the biggest things that I've actually done a lot of research on myself is what they call the Palm Sunday tornadoes. The Palm Sunday tornadoes, and there have been a lot of tornado outbreaks. I can't even bring you the worst ones, but in this area and in the Midwest, the Palm Sunday tornadoes were in April of 1965. Your humble host, Alan Ray, was in Mama's belly. My mother was pregnant for me, and it happened in April of 1965. And very rare. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, and just doing research for this show, doing research for what we're talking about here, I live in a tornado alley. I did not know that. I have seen a couple of tornadoes in the house I'm living in right now. We are in a area where when a tornado hits, it goes right for us. And the Palm Sunday tornadoes, one of them was an F4 tornado that went through this area. Manitow Beach area is not too far from here. But that tornado was one of the longest stretches of a tornado on the ground in history. And if you look, if you just Google map of Palm Sunday tornadoes, you can see this big red streak all the way across. It starts in Indiana and it goes all the way up through Michigan and Hillsdale County, Lenawee County. And it missed my hometown just barely. It still was close enough where there was a lot of damage, but Manitow Beach, I play at a lot of little places in Manitow Beach area, a lot of little restaurants and places like that. It destroyed the Manitow Beach area, just blew it up. Just north of Grand Rapids, Comstock Park area, blew a lot of that place up. There were so many tornadoes that day, it was unreal. Now, we take for granted what we have today in the alert system. I watched hours of videotapes of people being interviewed about the Palm Sunday tornadoes, and one of the recurring themes that was in the Palm Sunday tornadoes in 1965 was it was a muggy day for March. It was a beautiful day. I mean, it was kind of overcast, and in minutes it turned dark, it turned ugly, and a lot of people looked and they said what they thought was a cloud coming at them or smoke or something like that. And other people will go, no, that's a tornado, and that's the only warning they got. That was the only warning a lot of people had. And there were over 200 deaths. Some report like 220-ish, 224. Depends on your official count. And that is one of the worst tornado strikes in the area and pretty much ever. Followed closely, now I remember this one as a young child, by the 1974 tornado strikes. Now, the 1974 tornado strikes, and this is kind of funny because, this shows the weather pattern. We had the 1988 blizzard, or the 1888 blizzards, 1889 blizzards. We had flooding, if you look at weather records, just before we entered World War II as a nation. And the only reason I caught on to this is because my mother has a diary from her aunt pre-World War II and talking about the horrible, horrible flooding and people's houses falling into rivers and people drowning. And hopefully, it'll ease up soon, the rains, the torrential downpours. And then we got to 1965 and we had about a 10-year stretch of these horrible tornadoes. Now, 1974, two F5 tornadoes strike the same place on the same day. This, Tanner, Alabama, 20 miles west of Huntsville. Two tornadoes It was actually struck twice. This little town was struck twice that same day by 2 F5 twisters within 30 minutes of each other. The odds of that occurring are astronomically small. And it should be noted that some scientists, including tornado guru Thomas Grzoulis, rated the second tornado as an F4. However, F4, F5, whatever, right? They both struck the same place. But I distinctly remember as a child, when I became aware, and this was like, probably when I was 7, 8 years old, we went through a period, and this period had been going on. It's just I now realized it was going on. We went through from the 60s through the early 70s, all the way up to about 1978, where the weather was just horrendous. Both snow, both winter and summer. I remember winters as a kid where the bottom would just fall out of the temperature around the end of November, and you wouldn't thaw out until March. And then you would have tornadoes all the way up into July. And it just seemed like there was a time period where every single week we were, and we lived right next to my grandparents. They had a good house. They had a really good house built on the side of a hill, so it was very safe. And we would go there. We had our own basement. Sometimes we couldn't make it to our grandparents' house, but we would hide in our own basement. But it just seemed like every week we were ducking and covering from tornadoes. We don't have that a lot anymore, especially here. Now, they still do in the big tornado alley in Oklahoma. And if you listen to KLRNRadio as a habit, you will know there's some days where we just don't go live because Rowdy Rick Robinson, our boss, who's coming up next on Juxtaposition, lives in Oklahoma, and he's ducking and covering. We have a lot of people that live in that area, Oklahoma, Texas, places like that, and they are ducking and covering. However, we still do get our share of tornadoes here, and I've actually, as stupid as it sounds, actually accidentally ran in a tornado. I got dropped off at the head of a Kiwanis trail that runs between Tecumseh and Adrian, Michigan. And I said, I'm going to do a 6-7 mile run, took off running, and it started raining. And because that trail is so enclosed by trees, you don't really feel the wind, but you can kind of feel the rumble of thunder. And I had my headphones on, wasn't thinking about it. I was like, oh, great, going to be wet. I get to the end of the trail, and my son is white-faced. And he goes, we've been trying to get a hold of you. Didn't you know that you just ran through a tornado? I was like, no, I didn't. That's interesting. But the last really big tornado we had here was one that took the roof off of a hotel in Dundee, Michigan, that my next-door neighbor and I saw actually touch down just northeast of where I live now. So, needless to say, I'm big on tornado prep. I'm going to leave you with this. Get yourself a NOAA weather radio with an alarm. You can get them for about $30, $35 on Amazon. If there's inclement weather going on, they will go off before your tornado sirens go off, before it hits the TV. 3 to 4 minutes may save your life. Have flashlights available this time of year. LED ones, preferably. Ones that convert from lanterns to flashlights. Plenty of batteries. Keep the batteries out of the flashlights, but keep them all in the same box so you can reach them. Keep water access, ways to heat your house, alternative ways for cooking and boiling water just in case the water's bad after a tornado. Alternate cooking methods. Have your bug out bag, one in your home, one in your car. A lot of times you see homes destroyed and there's a car sitting right next to it that might be flipped over but still accessible. You can get your bug out bag out of it. Have stuff in there to keep yourself safe. Solar chargers for phones. You can get emergency radios with solar powered that you can bring out there, and it takes a while to charge your phone, but it's better than not having communications. Keep an emergency radio, one with hand crank, solar, battery, a myriad of ways to keep it charged, not just an electric one, because your power is probably going to go out. It's that time of the year, people. It's time to be safe. I'm Alan Ray. I do this for free. I hope you came out of this show a little bit smarter than what you were before you went into it. Stay tuned. We got Juxtaposition coming up next. Don't go anywhere. We will be in touch and talking soon. God bless you. God bless America.